Dwivedi, Executive Member ISTD Bhopal. I welcome you all on this webinar, Post-COVID-19 Higher Education in India, Challenges and Way Forward. This is very relevant topic for discussion in the current timings. We have with us Dr. Nataraj Ray, National President ISTD, Dr. Upender Dhar, past National President ISTD, Vice Chancellor Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya Indore, who is also moderator for this webinar. On behalf of ISTD, my warm welcome to all my panelist speaker who is here, Madam Preeti Saluja, who is Chancellor SAM Global University Bhopal, Professor Dr. Anup Saroop, Vice Chancellor, Jagran Lake City University Bhopal, and Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi, Director, Rabindranath Tagore University and Director, ISECT Group. I also welcome Mr. Salil Chatterjee, Chairperson, ISTD Bhopal, Mr. Joshi of NHQ, and all my esteemed participants who are connected from entire country. Today's topic is very relevant, as we all are aware that COVID-19 has changed the entire world and many things, and higher education is also one of them. So, as we say in Hindi, बदलना तय है इस संसार में हर चीज का, किसी के दिन बदलेंगे, किसी का दिल बदलेगा. So, the only thing is, we all know that nothing is constant in this world. The only thing is constant is change. So how to manage this change, we will discuss in relation to higher education post-COVID. So now I will request to Dr. Nataraj Ray, President ISTD Bhopal, ISTD New Delhi, for delivering this inaugural address on the webinar, higher education in India, post-COVID challenges and way forward. Dr. Ray.
Yeah. Thank you, Dwivedi ji. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear past President, President of Emeritus, Chairman and Secretary of the chapter, and other friends. We welcome all of them in this webinar being conducted by ISTD Bhopal chapter along with ISTD National Office. We all welcome all the National Council members like Jivitesh Roth ji, Manwani ji, and also Madam Rishu Roy Madam ji, for this webinar session. Apart from that, any other NC members and past presidents also welcome. In this turbulent and uncertain time, that is a COVID time, we can tell them that ISTDN feel that to do some connectivity with the members and HR fraternity across the country, even globe. Now many webinars we have done across the globe, and many countries who has participated in this webinar. This is a knowledge sharing session, and all the members are, and also HR fraternity are participate in this webinar session. We therefore decided to provide a platform to eminent speakers, business leaders, visionary leaders, and statutory leaders to share their experience during this difficult time, during this uncertain time. With this, we are many distinguished speakers spoken in this webinar. Today, ISTD Bhopal chapter with the leader of the Salil Chatterjee and also Dwivedi ji and other members organized this with our national office, that is the Gurvinder ji, Joshi ji, Director ISTD National Office, as the instrumental to organize this program. Thank you all for organizing this program. Today, we have our very special guest with us, our own dear Dr. Upender Dhar sir. Sir, after a long time we have seen, and your contribution to ISTD is enormous, sir. Our past national president, when any program, when any time we went there, Dhar sir is always with us. He told me, yes, Nataraj ji, go ahead, we are with you. Thank you, sir. Apart from that, we have with us Professor Dr. Anup Saroop, Vice Chancellor, Jagaran Lake City University, Bhopal. Sir, this is the first time you are in the ISTD. we will work together, your university and ISTD jointly doing program, and also we take part all the programming future through our Bhopal chapter. We have with us Mrs. Preeti Saluja, Madam Chancellor, SAM Global University Bhopal. Madam, we welcome you in this program, and also SAM Global University and Bhopal will work together for the faculty development program and other program, and jointly we have done it. We have our own Siddharth Chaturvedi ji, Director Rabindranath Tagore University, though it is a Bengali name, no, Rabindranath Tagore in the Bhopal, sir, that it is a very, in the Bengali, it is a very sensitive word when we heard that Rabindranath Tagore. Sir, welcome you, sir, in this ISTD, as I'm speaking from Kolkata. When heard the Rabindranath Tagore, we will feel some great that we are Bengali, are celebrating our own ancestor Rabindranath Tagore. Welcome, sir. Apart from that, we have special guest Divedi ji. Already we have told RG Divedi, EC member ISTD Bhopal chapter. Sir, your contribution to the ISTD Bhopal chapter is enormous. Today, our moderator will be the Upendra Darsab, our past president, and we will know that this is a great session. Sir will do all the moderation and others. Today's topic is higher education in India, post-COVID-19 challenges and way forward. Sir, there are 2-3 eloquent speakers, Anup ji, Siddharth ji, and also Preeti ji. We will learn from this what is the problem of higher education and how to sort out this COVID time. My very limited 2-3 line comments are there. That technology can, the one thing is that now everybody are telling the virtual classes and virtual activities. Sir, I can tell you the touches between the teacher and student, which cannot be happen virtually, sir. So technology can never replace great teachers, but technology can be the hands of the great teacher to transformational. But teacher and student relation will be always there. That cannot be technology technology cannot change it. But online learning, we are going for online learning. We will learn from you how to go the higher education in the online many university, because my family, many of the family members are working as a professor or university. My wife also a teacher. So that I wish to know how to learn online learning, library, video lecture, e-book, and also class note, etc. So digitization and learning is also a part of the to this thing. Online become a default mode of education during this lockdown period, and we wake up COVID. What does mean the institution and academic leaders, administration, and students in this long run getting clear? So I will learn all this from all this eloquent and the professors and also vice chancellor today. My concluding remarks is that all the participants today we will learn how to education system will go the after COVID-19. In these remarks, I can tell you everybody will enjoy today's program to taking the concept that way of the application, higher order thinking and missing in the student-teacher relation. So hope everyone will enjoy this. Thank you once again to our members for participating for this program. I once again thank the Bhopal chapter led by Sholil Chatterjee, Reshmi ji, and also Vikas ji for make the Bhopal chapter for a vibrant, and Trivedi ji also the part of the thing. I will also thank the ISTD NHQ led by Dr. A.C. Joshi to the support all the chapters for this webinar session. I would request that Sholil Chatterjee take over the microphone, and I once again thank everybody, panelists, speaker, our respective past president, all the NC members, chapter chairman for attending this wonderful session, today's evening session, and we learn from all of you how to direct the education system in after post-COVID. Thank you very much. Over to Sholil Chatterjee. Sholil ji is there? Gurvinder ji? Hello. Over to Sholil Chatterjee. Unmute kariye Sholil Chatterjee. Unmute. नहीं, सुनाई नहीं देता. Unmute.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
A very good evening to one and all. Thank you, Dr. Nataraj Ray. On behalf of Indian Society for Training and Development Bhopal chapter, I welcome you all to today's session. ISTD at the national level and also through its various chapters has been conducting sessions on various topics during this lockdown period for the benefit of the cross-section of the society, be it academics, management, HR professionals, trainers, students pursuing their HR careers, or the business segment. Response has been very good. Bhopal chapter has had 2 webinars so far. First one was how to be happy, the unanswered question. And the second one was self-learning is the key. Today's topic is a very relevant one. Higher education in India post-COVID-19, challenges and way forward. With the entire world taken aback by the sudden attack of an unknown pandemic named as COVID-19, we all are struggling not only to save the lives of humanity, but also the activities that helps us to keep our lives ticking. May it be our industry, the lifeline of our economy, but also the most important sector, that is the education sector, the pillar that gives strength to the growth of any economy. All our schools and colleges are closed, exams suspended. The entire education sector is grappling as to what to do and as how to take things ahead. We all are standing at the crossroad wondering which way or what step we should adopt next, staring at the government and the policy makers. Due to the pandemic, the crucial cord of socio-economic stability is in peril. As has been rightly said by Drawford President Howard University, higher education is the strongest, sturdiest ladder to increased socio-economic stability. Keeping this in mind and backdrop, ISTD Bhopal chapter, in association with NHQ, has come up with this innovative session today. We have been able to invite and bring on board to today's panel discussion on this very important topic. All the 3 noted speakers are seasoned academicians and stalwarts in the education sector, and particularly the higher education. Nothing could have been better but to hear from them as what needs to be done in the present scenario. What are the challenges and how we should take it forward, keeping in sight the country's and as well as the students' interests. And to bring out the best from them, we have today's moderator, none other than one of our own ISTD family member, Dr. Upinder Dhar, who is presently the Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, and has served as National President in the year 2008-9. He joined ISTD in the year as back as 1978. It means it is already 42 years that he has put into ISTD. He is also a seasoned academician, as you would soon hear when he is introduced. Bhopal chapter is indeed grateful for Dr. Dhar to have accepted our request to moderate today's session. Now coming to ISTD, Indian Society for Training and Development. Human resource development is increasingly making visible contribution to the success of organizations today. It is widely recognized that training function is a strategic partner for achieving goals and to stay ahead in competition. The Indian Society for Training and Development, with its national office in New Delhi, is a premier national institution devoted to the cause of human resource development with international affiliations. It is a non-profit society registered under the Societies Registration Act, spearheading the training and development movement in India. It has over 50 chapters pan-India, with one in Bhopal. We have over 8,000 members across the country. Having founded in 1970, we are celebrating the year 2020 as our Golden Jubilee year. It is also operating the following verticals: Deployment Training and Development, an 18-month correspondence program. We have been teaching through online and contact class mode. Our diploma is recognized by Ministry of HRD, Government of India. Our diploma is one of its kind in the whole Southeast Asia. We invite applications for admissions twice a year. Our 83rd batch is commencing from 1st of August 2020. We have recently launched an internationally accredited trainer program jointly with an organization called NOCN of the United Kingdom. ISTD has also instituted a national award for innovative training practices. It is a sought-after award. Prominent among them have been NTPC, GAIL, BHEL, Tata, SBI, L&T, Balco, Reliance, Mahindra, to name a few. 2019 was its 29th awarding year. At Bhopal chapter level also, we have introduced an annual award as Innovative Trainer Award. This function is generally held on 10th April, which is celebrated as the International Trainers Day. Throughout the world, during 2019, we gave this award to 15 outstanding trainers. This year, due to lockdown, we could not hold the event, but shall do it soon as normalcy returns. We have another vertical in the name of Skill Mission. We undertake skilling under Government of India schemes, besides conducting assessment. While we have our own property in Bhopal in MP Nagar, National Office has recently acquired a 1-acre land in Acharpura industrial area for setting up a training and employability center. Before handing over the mic to the coordinator of today's session, Mr. R.G. Dwivedi, to introduce the three eminent speakers, I take the privilege to introduce the moderator of the day, Dr. Upinder Dhar. Dr. Upinder Dhar is a Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Earlier, he was Group Additional Vice Chancellor and Pro-Vice Chancellor Academics, MET University, Noida. Founder Vice Chancellor of J.K. Lakshmipat University, Jaipur. Director, Institute of Management, Dean Faculty of Management and Dean Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, Nirma University, Ahmedabad. Director, Prestige Institute of Management and Research, Indore. Professor of Management, NITIE, Mumbai. Reader at IMS DAVV, Indore. And lecturer at MD University, Rohtak. He has conducted more than 650 management and faculty development programs for the executives of major business houses and faculty members of academic institutions, respectively. He has also been guest faculty at IIM Calcutta, IIM Indore, IIM Trichy, and IIT Roorkee. Besides undertaking consultancy assignments, he has authored, co-authored, edited more than 700 publications. 36 scholars have been awarded PhD degree under his supervision by various universities. A fellow of ISTD and a strong proponent of case method, Dr. Dhar was conferred Ravi J. Mathai National Fellow Award by the Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS, in 2018. He has been on the panel of reviewers of a number of international journals, such as International Journal of Training and Development, Human Resources International, Journal of Global Business and Technology, South Asian Journal Management. He has also been on the panel of experts maintained by the NAAC Bangalore, NBA Bangalore, ICSSR New Delhi, SAQS Hyderabad. He was president of the Anthropological and Behavioral Sciences section of the Indian Science Congress Association 2007-8. Indian Society for Training and Development in 2018, he was the president. And Association of Indian Management Schools 2014-15. He has also been member of the Council of Management of IMA. Member of IMA, All India Board of Management Studies of AICT, Rajasthan State Productivity Council. Governing body of Delnet and member of the Executive Board of AMDISA. Dr. Dhar was awarded Commonwealth Fellowship twice to present his papers at the South Asian Management Forum held at Royal Institute of Management, Bhutan, and Lahore University of Management Science, Lahore. He was invited by the American Society for Engineering Management as a resource person for case method during an international annual conference held in Minnesota in 2013. He had the opportunity to visit Ivy League institutions like Harvard Business School, MIT Solon School of Management, and Yale University School of Management. He also visited 18 countries for professional and academic interest. He has been He has also been invited, has been on the high-powered expert committees constituted by MHRD, UGC, AICTE, and Honorable Governor of Uttar Pradesh. Currently is member of the Standing Committee on Specification of Degrees under Section 22 of the UGC Act 1956. He has also been resource person in the leadership of Academicians Program LEAP, sponsored by MHRD and organized by IIT Roorkee in 2018 and BHU Varanasi in 2019. Thank you. Thank you all once again. Over to Mr. Dwivedi.
Friends, we have, thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Now we are going, I have been given opportunity to to introduce about the panel speakers. We have very learned panel today to discuss the very important subject. I feel proud and fortunate to introduce these learned panel. There, you see, because of paucity of this time, I have done very short. Their profile is very long. Even in it will take much time. So I have done very tracks I have taken. I will introduce first Madam Preeti Saluja. She is Chancellor of SAM Global University. SAM Group is one of the oldest education group of the Central India with more than 50 years of experience. Now you see the 50 years, it indicates the consistency of any organization. It is 50 years of experience in higher education. Under her able guidance and leadership, this group has successfully and proudly placed itself as one of the elite education group of Central India. Madam Preeti Saluja also leads the skill development vertical of SAM Group and has led various groups. She is also associated in various dozen of organizations, like she is the chairman in PhD Chamber of Commerce in State Education and Skill Development Committees. She has been conferred upon various awards. There are more than 10 awards. I will not take name of all because I have to introduce all three panelists. So she has also been conferred upon various awards. Few of them are Youth Guru, Women's Excellence Award, Women's Empowered Award, Samarpita Award, Best Group Placement Award by Government of India, Satpal Singh Ji, who was Minister of State, and Best Group of Girls Education by Honorable Finance Minister Government of India, Nirmala Sitharaman Ji. She is alumnus of very reputed engineering institute, many from Bhopal. Welcome you, ma'am, in this webinar. Then we have other very eminent, and I feel proud and again fortunate to read the introductory part of Professor Dr. Anup Sarup, FRCA. He has been long having he is a Vice Chancellor of Jagran Lakes University. He is a recipient of Presidential Award. Dr. Sarup has over 40 years of distinguished professional experience in diverse roles as educationist, poet, peace activist, life scientist, social entrepreneur, and as civil servant and United Nations representatives. Sometimes I feel how one can have this diversified personality, but we are lucky to have him today here. He is a recipient of many awards. As I told, because of time, I am taking only few. He has many awards. Few of them are Hiroshima Peace Award, Nobel Peace Prize, Amrita Devi Bishnoi Medal. He holds doctorate, his PhD, and 4 distinguished master's degree with gold medals in diverse fields that include management, finance, defense and strategy. He is also founder, chair, vice chancellor of Jagran Lakes University. Under his guidance, the university is growing day by day, and the university has been getting about 2-3 times from the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. I was witness of those programs, and he is also vice chancellor of Soviet University since 2008. He is also in the government media, government body, and chairman of various organizations in India and abroad. In various organizations in Australia and in Brussels, in Geneva, in Washington, in many various places. He is visiting professor there in the university, international institution. as an IRS officer, dynamic officer. He has got various awards during his service period. He has served the country more than 30 years in different places, different corners of the country. Today we have with us, welcome you sir in this webinar. We are proud to have you sir. We have Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi with us, who is a director in Rabindranath Tagore University, also director in ISEC Group. ISEC Group is India's leading social enterprise working in areas of higher education, skill training, financial institutions in rural India. The group has 5 universities: Bhopal, Bilaspur, Hazaribagh, Vaishali, and Khandwa. And all these universities, they are having the coordination is being done by Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi. He has been instrumental in group for various initiatives, various mission initiatives along with the government of India, like Skill India Mission, Digital India Mission, Startup India Mission. Siddharth handles the functioning of 23,000 strong IICT center network throughout the country. He has been working for strategy for expansion, diversification, and innovation. As an alumnus of MINIT, which is reputed Engineering College of Bhopal, and also MBA from SPGen Institute of Management, Bombay, he has worked with ITC and IBM. He is associated with many organizations, like he is chairman CII Bhopal Zone Council. He is also member CII Western Regional Committee on Startups and Skill Development Employment. He is a charter member of PIE MP, and he is also member of various organizations. He is chairman of various committees. He is also most energetic and dynamic personality. And the most important thing that he is a son of one of my friends, Santosh Chaubey, who is chancellor of these 5 universities, and Mr. Chaubey is also having very diversified personality. He is a scientist, he is a poet, he is a sahityakar, he is a various whatnot. So I feel proud that Siddharth belongs to that family. Welcome you, Siddharth, here. Before handing over the mic to Dr. Dhar, I will say that today's webinar, which is very important and which is being discussed by these panelists. I'm sorry, I have taken only very few things from their profile, other because of lack of time. But one thing is there, in Sanskrit there is a shlok, Satesu Jayate Shura, Sahasresu Cha Pandita. They say that among 1,000 people, one brave, there is one brave. Among 10,000 people, there is one sage. But Bhakta Das Sahasreshu, a skilled orator is among 10,000. So all these, my 3 speakers, panelists, they are, you all are among 10,000. I welcome you again, and I will ask Dr. Dhar to forward this program further. Dr. Dhar.
Thank you very much, Dwivedi ji. First of all, I would like to join our ISTD office bearers and President in welcoming the 3 eminent speakers for today's webinar. Well, as all of you have mentioned, that this theme is very important. It is important because COVID-19, which we are experiencing for the first time, has disrupted all businesses across the world. And education is not an exception. Education at all levels, school level, higher education, are affected across the world. It has been estimated that there are 1.3 to 1.5 billion students have been affected across the world because of COVID-19. And if we speak specifically about our country, in our country, there are 3.75 crore students in higher education and around 14 lakh teachers in higher education only. All of us have been affected by COVID-19. Though such pandemics have been happening in the past, if you would see history, once in every century it has been happening. But so far as all of us are concerned, none of us is more than 100 years old. For us, COVID-19 is the first experience. But if we go back historically, in 1720, there was epidemic of plague across the world. Then 1820, after 100 years, there was epidemic of cholera across the world. Then in 1918 to 1920, approximately 2 years, there was epidemic of Spanish flu across the world. At that time, 500 million people were affected by Spanish flu across the world. And out of that, 50 million people died. And now in 2019-20, we have COVID-19. One thing that happened, one thing good that happened is that our teachers, after this COVID started and we observed Janata curfew on 22nd of March. In fact, classes were suspended mostly across the country from 16th of March, Janata curfew on 22nd of March, and lockdown started from 25th of March. So it is about 3.5 months now. In these 3.5 months, one thing good that happened, that our teachers in general were able to shift from classroom to Zoom. They could easily, or they could manage to come on the Zoom and build the contact with their students. There have been problems at the same time, because in our country there are two major issues, major problems. One is reach and second is quality. So in the case of reach, those students who are living in very remote areas, rural areas, all of them could not be contacted because bandwidth of the internet is not very good at all the places. Therefore, that was a problem. So we have experiences, different kinds of experiences throughout this 3.5 months. And all of us have tried to resolve it and see to it that student engagement happens and students are not, they do not lose an academic year. So all possible efforts have been made by various institutions across the country, in fact, across the world, to do that. Today, we have very eminent and highly learned speakers with us, and I would like to request them to speak one by one for 10 minutes on what have been their experiences during this COVID-19 and what challenges have they observed and how they have tackled them, how they have faced these challenges. So I would start with Professor Anup Swarup to comment on it. So you have 10 minutes, Dr. Swarup.
Please unmute yourself. Sir, please unmute yourself. Dr. Swarup.
Sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Doctor. I have unmuted. Let me tell you that these are very strange, amazing, and perhaps revolutionary times. Great changes happened. As you just mentioned, every 100 years, humanity has faced some crisis. And now, these are VUCA times. By VUCA, what I imply is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I recall that a couple of years back, when the MOOC revolution was taking place across the world, that time I was called for a keynote by the universities of Asia Pacific. And at that time, universities in the region, and that included even the American universities and the European universities representatives, the discussion was that with the MOOC onslaught, will face-to-face teaching go? And I said we better be prepared. But there were a lot, like we discussed here itself, there were a lot of the teachers, the professors, the university vice chancellors, the presidents, the chancellors, they felt that face-to-face teaching will never go. I couldn't agree more. But then I told them that many tsunamis have come, like the MOOC tsunami, and they've come and gone. Same thing is happening now again after about 6 years after that keynote address. And I realized that we should have been prepared. Now is the time that we should be prepared for the eventuality. And as I mentioned, VUCA. Now things are going to change forever. I would make a case not only for online teaching, but also offline and interactive teaching, for not only unidirectional, but multi-directional approach to teaching. And by multi-directional, what I mean is that it's not only interactive teaching using video like Zoom, we are here online, all of us. It's not only this. Of course, there are a whole lot of web applications from cloud computing to BYOD. You all know that in our universities across the world, we are using BYOD. That is bringing your own device. Then we have got nothing but cloud computing. We have got digital twins. I'm sure that many of you must have, and many of our participants today must have heard about this, or must have even used them. We have got artificial intelligence, we have got virtual reality, we have got augmented reality. A couple of years back when I had gone to Germany, I went to the Mercedes showroom. And from the showroom, I was taken to the factory where I could see that right from 1939, all the Mercedes models were on display, and they could unwind, they could, uninstall each of the components and put it back. And the engineers, the budding engineers there in Germany at Stuttgart, they were learning the art of putting everything together and how the cars have evolved over the years. And not only that, they gave us a presentation where they said that for your university students, for the mechanical engineering students, we can have a virtual tool room in your own university in the lab where they can have hands-on experience as if they are working on the factory floor. So these are the types of changes which are going to take place. My case is that we should, really speaking, adopt as fast as possible. In fact, coming to our own experience, as Dr. Dhar mentioned, I should be talking about that as well. In Madhya Pradesh, in Bhopal, we made a very strong case right in the beginning. We said that no promotions, because that would be the worst thing to happen to our education system in the state. And that was accepted even by the governor, and we got the message from the chief minister as well as the governor that no promotions as such. But then the problem was, what do we do about the assessment, about the examinations? Because this is the time of the year where our students have to take examinations. So I went 2 steps ahead. Of course, the University Grants Commission had constituted a committee. I was a part, and Dr. Dhar was also there, and I was in constant exchange with the chairman of UGC, and I told that there is no way. We had the circular of 28th April. On 4th May, we declared that we are going ahead with online examinations, online assessments, and even online teaching wherever some classes have been left. So in the month of June itself, the university completed all the examinations. All the results were declared in next 1 week. And this is, I should be talking about this because the students were very much worried. There was a lot of panic amongst the students as to what is going to happen to their examinations. They were sitting idle in their homes, not only the students, but also their parents. So that was a big issue for us, that the students should be constructively engaged. And the same thing would apply to all courses across the board, not only the 10 schools at Jagran which we run, but across the board. And then I exchanged the guidelines which we had formulated, not only with the UGC, but with most of the universities. And they were more than happy, and we conducted the examinations. So we happened to be one of the first universities in the country. Of course, then IIT Kharagpur and IIT Bangalore, even IIMS, they took our cue. And they also devised their own online examinations, and they've carried it on. So my only point with most of the vice chancellors in Madhya Pradesh was that why do you have to wait for instructions from the government? They understand very little about the university system. We understand much more. We know the law. It is very well within the competence of the vice chancellor that you can conduct the examinations. So we did it. And not only we did it, some ordinance change was not warranted, but we still did it so that we make it much more explicit. We added the word online or offline, so that it would be abundantly clear that the universities can also carry online examination. My case was that we have a semester pattern, and I'm sure that Preeti Saluja ji at your university in SAM Global, same with Rabindranath Tagore University and elsewhere. And of course, Dr. Upinder Dhar at your university, you must be carrying on with not only online teaching nowadays, but also online assessments. And it's not at all a problem doing it. We had given 5 pillars. One was MCQ, of course, assignment based. Then third was open book examination. You can always give questions. And there are a whole lot of companies which are floating around that we can do this job for you on a consultancy basis. But then I had a meeting with all my faculty members, and everybody felt that they do not need any consultant to come and advise us how do we have to conduct our own examinations. So we did it, and we were very successful. Students were most happy, satisfaction level. We did a survey. We found that 98% students were happy. And then we decided that in case there is an issue with some students because of the broadband, they do not have that set of a network connectivity, we'll give them another opportunity, which we do in any case. Those were the makeup examinations which we normally hold for those students who couldn't for some reason undertake the examination or there was shortage in attendance. So in those cases also, we have already started the examination. So 98% students had taken the online examinations, their parents were happy, the students were happy, and it was a great success. And then I realized that many universities in the country have done the same thing. 3 days back, I was having with Times, the Times ranking index. So I had a webinar with them, and I was told by the University of Cambridge representative that even the University of Cambridge had taken the lead in having an online examination. So even Oxford and many other universities in UK, they are following the same pattern. So what I implies that it is all possible, it can be done, we should move forward. The world is going to be a different world. When it comes to COVID-19, the fact remains that even if we have a vaccine by say 15th August or maybe another couple of months, this will take a little time. It might take a couple of years, maybe 2 years or 3 years, but we should move forward. We should not be a bystander and wait that something is going to happen. We should take that destiny in our hands as teachers, as professionals, for the sake of our students. And as I was mentioning, the students are very happy. Online examinations were conducted. They had the opportunity to go in for placements as well, because once you have a degree, you can move forward. And I would never subscribe to the view that the student should be given a promotion as such, because that is the worst thing to happen to our students. Now, most foreign universities are going ahead with online examination. Doing a physical face-to-face examination or face-to-face teaching is not possible in these circumstances, which most universities do understand in the country. So with these words, I think I'm nearing my 10 minutes, so I will leave it to you. But I would say that this is a challenge, but this challenge can be a great opportunity for all of us. And this opportunity is there for us to grab. We should go forward, move ahead in time, and do those things which were hitherto thought to be impossible. Nothing is impossible in this world. Change, as Dwivedi ji in the beginning itself mentioned, change is the only constant. You're absolutely right. I totally agree. And we should embrace the change in these VUCA times. This is what I would like to say. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swarup. The point that you are making is that one has to adapt and have a positive approach, have a
Yes.
positive outlook, and go ahead. We cannot run away from this
Yes,
situation.
absolutely.
Now, thank you very much, Dr. Swarup. Now I would request Dr. Preeti Saluja to share her views.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate the ISTT for arranging so many webinars, a series of webinars, which has been very knowledge sharing and brainstorming sessions. I would like to extend my thanks to all these distinguished members of ILSTD for inviting me for this webinar. Also, I would like to extend my deep regards to all the distinguished the panel members. It's my honor to be a part of this August panel. So the COVID-19 pandemic is all set to change the world very sooner than we perceive. But yes, along with all education, the economic sectors, the higher education sector is also undergoing a very tectonic shift. So the pandemic is already steering the sector very forward with all the technological innovations and advancements. As we are seeing to that, as the unlocked happened, the universities were shut down, and very true, the universities in the tier 1 and even the cities in Bhopal and tier 2 cities, they immediately started with the online learning, online sessions. And very true, as sir said, that the classroom teaching shifted to Zoom. But in my opinion, as an educationist, I feel that online learning doesn't mean the only the one pedagogical method using this technology. Actually, it is a combination of learning, the psychological behavior analytics, and the content delivery, and even the assessments. So it is a complete learning science. And that is what is the challenge in front of all of us. Because this learning science has to be taught to all our educators, to all our faculty members. And the new technologies have to be adopted by all the fraternity all through the country, which is a big challenge. Sorry, I'm moving to the all the country as a whole, because it is a very diversified education system what we are having. It includes the 15 lakh schools and 50,000 higher education institutions, and the training the educators in the rural urban spectrum is the biggest challenge for these educational technologies. So that very true, we need to strategize, and very true, the government sector has to, the policy makers have to come out with many type of strategies. One major challenge what I think every institution must have faced is the lack of student engagement during these Zoom classes. For that, what we also try to do at SAM Global University, that we tried to have such type of assignments, we tried to have such type of articles which actually fetch the attention of our students and their involvement. So that is what has to be done. Moreover, what I think is that the e-learning content, what is being delivered, should not be the only conversion of your class notes to PDFs. It also is a very, very specialized skill to develop the digitized bite-sized content. And this includes a special skill set. And very honestly speaking, this skill set is restricted to some organizations, and not. And now what I feel is that universities have to do collaborations with these specialized organizations to develop the e-content also. Higher education is very special learning education, educating our youth. It has to have some special outcomes. So another challenge is what we all are facing is that the one size fits delivery, the non-contextual deliveries, and the non-existent assessments is becoming a bigger challenge in long term if we are not going to take care of this right now, because it has to go along. So that is the challenges what our policy makers have really has to look forward while redesigning the educational system. Another very important challenges what we face during these times is the mental health issues, the depression among the students. So that also we try to take care in that way, that now the educators are no more only the teachers, they are the mentors. They need to have more empathy towards the students. They need to encourage them for the learning. And of course, they need to have a better connect to them and the parents themselves. And even we need to guide the parents that now they should inspire their children to develop the competencies and the skills rather than to memorize the content. So for that, now the higher education institutions will have to appoint some special counselors. They need to have some special psychologists appointed who will talk to the students and even the parents. The self-accountability, the self-learnings, these all are the attached challenges which we should really take care of in future. Yes, apart from that, the higher education institutions will have to embrace the new technology like artificial intelligence, and moreover, the deep model of the learning management systems has to be adopted. Otherwise, the engagements will be very low and the outcomes will be very disappointing. Similarly, the technology which simulates the learning, that also has to be adopted to increase the learning part in the practicals of the students also. So these are some of the challenges which, truly speaking, we need to take care of. Of course, yes, these online learning and online teachings is will not going to replace the offline face-to-face teaching, and the future will be a blended learning. That is, in my opinion, after the things are somewhat normal or better, then a model of blended learning should be formulated, which will include some part of the learning should be online and some part of the learning will be offline. So again, that will be their judicial decision at our policymakers, and that what portion has to be taught online and what portion has to be taken care offline. Already, yes, we have many resources of digital educational resources like in Flipnet we have the ePathshala, we have Swayam, MOOCs that can be used by our teachers to take the online content to carry forward. Very true, the government interventions plays a very important role because it is very, very diversified country with most of the students in the rural areas where there is a very difficult reach of the bandwidth, internet, etc. But then the Diksha platforms, like which has been already developed by the government, that reach has to be strengthened to this places to have a more resilient education system in future. Then major challenges what we feel in the education system is again to have the seamless integration of the present education system with the online system. That is a biggest challenge in front of our policymakers. Then there has to be some of the inclusive learning solutions which actually serve the most vulnerable and the most marginalized need. What my view is that there may be many types of educational models, the e-learning models, which are mobile based, that we can actually develop more, because through mobiles we can reach to around 85% of our houses in 2024. So if these models are being developed in future, that will sort the most of the purpose for our students even in the rural areas. Yes, of course, the distance learning centers has to be approved by the government, and of course again the very judicial decisions has to be taken for the quality assurance of the higher education as when it comes to the online learning part. So these are the some challenges what we really facing. Another suggestions from my side will be the Indian traditional knowledge is well known across the globe for its scientific innovations and values. So during these policy making, we can actually incorporate some of our very renowned very popular these knowledge courses like of yoga, some Ayurveda, or some types of agriculture, hydraulics, metallurgy, etc., which will develop a large cause of humanity also in future. So these are some of the suggestions from my side, but yes, another very important challenge which is going to happen with us will be the cross-border movements of the students. As we all know that around 2-3 years still there will be a little break in the students going abroad for the studies. Around 7 lakh students every year from India go abroad for their higher studies, and around 40,000 students from 150 countries, they come to India for the studies. Our universities will have to really make some very attractive and viable arrangements so that these students are happy staying in India, and we need to take care of it. What for they move outside our country? That may be some of the attractions of having the global network. That may be some of the attractions of being the part of some technological revolutions, being the part of some job, having some good job opportunities. And the major part also is the choice of their own subjects across the disciplines. So if our universities are going to take care of these factors, I hope that the students who are going abroad, and we are facing the problems of the low enrollments also, we can also serve that. The measures also, what we can take it forward is some holistic, some systems of our, the admissions in the university, because our students sometimes those who cannot clear the competitive examinations, they are not able to get admissions. So that we can also take care of that. Some more research-oriented facilities can be extended, and the cross-discipline electives can be offered to our students. Of course, the delivery of the content also has to be taken care. Apart from that, what I feel is this is the time that we should incorporate more of internships, the practicals, project-based teaching in our systems. Also, there are very few very good systems in the Indo-Germany, there's French and German, where there is the model of some apprenticeship, that they have the tri-party, the association, where there is an association with the student, the institution, and the industry. And the state pays to the industry for the working of the student in the industry. So these type of associations and collaborations, if we start, that will encourage our students to stay back and continue their studies, and that will be the industry oriented. So we definitely should work for the filling the gap of the industry and the academia, because the changing format of the students placements also is going to be a great issues. So for that, we need to incorporate some skill-based, specialized skill-based courses in our education system. That may be the latest technologies of artificial intelligence, of say you can data sciences, big data, etc. That can be also incorporated as a special skill trainings to our students, so that they are prepared for the industries. Of course, yes, doing all this will put up a very financial burden to our educational institutions also, because shifting towards these new technologies, investing in them, is going to make them restructure their financial balances also. And then these are absolutely very, very costly affairs of all the learning management systems. And of course, to follow the safety measures, we need to have the more of instructional space. We need to have the better systems of administration, like shifting from biometrics to face readers. And of course, many security measures which has to be adopted. So again, it will be a challenge in front of our higher educational institutions to plan for very judicially, so that they carry on in a very smooth manner. Yes, challenges are there, but I think that by overcoming these challenges, by embracing the new technology, we are going to enter into the education 4.0. We are moving with the industry 4.0, but still our students are not prepared to be in tune with that industry 4.0 revolution. I suppose that if we all take that opportunity to bring some policies and to implement it judicially, we are going to prepare our students for this education 4.0 revolution, and which will actually develop them from any remote place where they are, according to their own skills, and the future will be very bright for them. We at SAM Global Universities have already been conducting very specialized skill courses, which are making our students industry trained. I mean, they are trained for the industries and industry ready. We are making for them. And that is what many more transformations has to be done in every system. The mindset has to be changed. And of course, but I think these type of sessions which are being conducted all through the country, the collaborations with the foreign universities, that will help us to come out with a very the good solutions what we are looking forward. And soon we are going to enter into a very advanced tech operated world. Thank you so much again for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Preeti ji. What you are saying is that what is immediately required is skill upgradation, because faculty simply replicating the way they were teaching in the classroom, the same way they are teaching on Zoom, which is not right. So faculty development has to take place. Faculty development for content development has to be there. Therefore, composite approach has to be there. So we need to approach it accordingly. Things have to change. We have to evolve a new methodology, a new pedagogy to face the new normal. Well, thank you very much. We'll be talking about way forward in the next round. Now I would request Siddharth ji to share his observations.
Thank you and good evening, everyone, all the fellow panelists and all the esteemed dignitaries of ISTD and all the attendees who are here from across the country. I feel privileged to be a part of this panel and to be discussing this very, very pertinent topic, a very relevant topic of today, which is on higher education sector and the post-COVID. In fact, it is the during COVID crisis. We still haven't reached the post-COVID phase yet. So nobody knows what lies at the post-COVID end. But let's continue the discussion. And I have my job very easy because two learned panelists have already covered most of the points. But I do have a short presentation. So with your permission, sir, I would like to share the presentation.
Please go ahead, but you can finish in 10 minutes.
Yes. So I hope it is visible now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to make
Fine.
it full.
So I will skip. Yes, I will skip through the introduction of the organization. Even before the COVID crisis, the education sector was battling the advancement in technology in the industry. We were not keeping pace with the level of technology advancement. Industry 4.0 was upon us, as it has been discussed, and we were already being blamed for not creating professionals who can work in the industry 4.0 environment. Apart from that, in Indian context, increasing the capacity, equity and access was always a challenge, and we were trying to work around that. And then came the COVID crisis, which has sort of accelerated the urgency of all these challenges. But at the same time, it has also thrown open a lot of opportunities if we get our act together today. Some of the, before we come to impact, as Upinder sir said beginning, today 90% of the global student population is out of the schools. In India, we're talking about 1,000 universities, 40,000 colleges, 3.75 crore enrolled students. And in terms of employment, there are around 30 to 40 lakh people who are employed directly or indirectly by this sector. So in terms of the impact also, it's a pretty significant number. And now we are looking at around 50 lakh students who would typically have enrolled by now in the higher education institutions, and that entire cycle has shifted by at least 3 to 5 months going forward. And that is causing the challenge. So what are the challenges today? The first one is, very frankly, the liquidity crisis, which has not gone out of the system yet, because for private institutions, the revenue comes from the student fees. And if the student fees is delayed or postponed or cancelled, it does create a liquidity crisis. By liquidity crisis here, I don't mean that we want more and more loans, which is the idea of the stimulus package, but we need more and more, cheaper cost of capital money to run our institutions when the fees is not coming. So that is the one, challenge. Coupled with this, of course, is servicing of loans. All the educational institutions typically have, higher credit lines. There are a lot of construction projects which are going on, expansion activities are happening, and all those loans, might get affected. Lack of clarity on the current academic year. So till now, we haven't yet stabilized, and for rightful reasons, as to how the academic year will flow. So looks like it is a shifting or postponement by 6 months, and we need to calibrate our responses according to this shift which has happened. Uneven environment for universal online learning. We will discuss that. Student migration patterns have shifted with both pros and cons. On a country basis, there was a lot of intellectual capital which was going out, getting experience and sending remittances or even sending their intellectual capital back, that has stopped. But it's an opportunity for institutions here to actually cater to that student population. There is an effect on placement, internships, and OJTs for students, and there are a lot of hiring freezes. There are a lot of postponement of hiring and recruitment decisions, and that affects the class of 2021 to some extent. And then the enrollment of vulnerable groups into skilling and education programs is a challenge, and it has only been accelerated with the entire migrant people moving from here to there. So that is a challenge. And the other one is significantly the research and industry funding. Although we were not doing very well as a country, but for all those institutions who have a significant research funding coming in or industry project coming in, that seems to get stalled for some time going ahead. So in terms of the COVID response plan, I'm sure many institutions would have followed the same strategy, but there is a short-term response when we were talking about immediately engaging the students, utilizing the faculty from work from home, developing any basic content which we could have, utilizing existing technology like Zoom or WhatsApp or Google Meet and so on, and leveraging available resources from the government of India or open source. See, there is an ocean of content which is already lying there, but nobody has taken the trouble of actually curating it and mapping it back with our curriculum. So that is an important exercise which has to happen now going ahead, and that's one of the responses. Now at the medium term, we are preparing for reopening. Almost all of us are either done or we are underway with our exams and assessments. Some of us could actually organize FDPs and TOTs on online teaching and online pedagogy. We also now could develop lesson plans with a blended approach in mind. We could analyze the data and collect feedback from students as to what is working, what is not working, so that we are ready at least for the first semester, if not the entire first year of the next calendar, to go online. And the long-term response is at an institutional level, where we hope that the policymakers will make the right decisions. We could be looking at institutional capacity building, realignment of teams within the university, and new teams coming up. As Preeti ji was saying, probably there is a complete digital and e-learning department which will come up now, if not existing already, and new financial models for getting the revenue streams in place. So this is a golden opportunity where, so blended approach, online learning, all these are old terms. They have not come in vogue now. Even 10 years back, we were talking about all this. But this is the time when, for the first time, all stakeholders, from policymakers to administrators to university leaders, students, parents, everybody is thinking digital. So how can we leverage this opportunity to make the right kind of decisions going ahead, but not make the following mistakes which have happened? What are the mistakes? So the data shows that we have very low course completion rates on the MOOCs platform, and it's an accepted fact. We have varying types of assessments, so no uniformity is there right now. Non-contextual and one-size-fits-all is a common mistake when we are trying to do LMS and online teaching in universities. And as we were hearing earlier, practitioners are just trying to transpose the classroom digital medium, which is not going to work. And online learning is certainly not just a library of video lectures and PDFs. It actually has to be a revisit to the learning science and working top down from a curriculum approach. So this is something which we need to keep in mind going ahead. Blended approach, yes, is going to be here to stay. And what we all need to, already those who have, gone ahead and done this research, the significant point between synchronous and asynchronous means of learning. And this is how we increase the reach to people who are in tier 2, tier 3, and even rural locations, when we don't emphasize only on synchronous methods of online learning and utilizing other formats apart from online teaching, making use of existing content. Private universities have guiding by the overall guidelines and have a significant exposure to technology from our students. So, from one of the UGC papers, if we see, just to see the, left column, between the synchronous and asynchronous methods, there are many activities like watching videos on your own time, watching video along with assessment, discussion forums, online quizzes, and so on, which can also have credits apart from just doing live online interaction. So that is something which we need to keep in mind, revisiting the curriculum. Finally, in terms of opportunities, going digital across the value chain should be the norm, and not just teaching, but counseling, placements, internships, personality development classes, industry lectures. So we have to think digital across the value chain. Technology enablers, platform providers, content creators are going to have, a big shift. EdTech industry has already raised so much money, and their valuations are all going up because of this entire change which is happening now. Change in employment pattern will happen. So we need to think of providing employment to all those people in the new sector. Healthcare is big, agriculture is big, there is vocal for local. So a lot of MSME and agriculture based requirement is going to come up for employment in the coming years. Investing in the biggest assets right now is the time for a lot of FDPs, TOTs, and focusing on the core asset, which is the teachers, and upgrading their skills in the coming time. Policy changes we have spoken about, crowdsourcing of digital content from open source or from some of our faculties. This is what we tried. A lot of videos have come up by trainers and faculty actually taking their own initiative to teach any of the concepts. And finally, moving from a sense of inertia to urgency. In terms of our readiness, in final 1 minute, we were doing a lot of these things earlier, but we also sort of got accelerated across the value chain for all these functions. So right from admissions to fee payment to live chat with counselors, virtual campus tours. Now we are a true, digital and online driven campus, not just in one, but across all the 5 campuses in true sense. In terms of the online classes, just with Zoom and WhatsApp, with the 2 months of lockdown till date, cumulatively, we have conducted more than 10,000, classes or lectures across all the 5 campuses, touching more than 80,000 students on a cumulative attendance basis. So it works. And if the trainer is good, if the lesson plan is good, it would work, but it will not work on its own. It has to be supplemented by all the other methods. In terms of assessments, yes, we are fully ready. We just conducted our assessments online for the final year students. We were also ready for the pre-final and the intermediate years. But this general promotion discussion came about. And finally, this gave us a wonderful opportunity to actually reach out to the national, international level. And COVID showed us that anything is possible when we think digital. So we actually leveraged, the series of webinars to have various kinds of sessions from industry, from HR practitioners, from skilled professionals, from research professionals. And till date, we have conducted around 70 webinars touching more than 27,000 participants, and we are still going ahead strongly. Finally, what I would like to say is that any good, as has been repeated, any good crisis is too rare to be wasted. So this is a big crisis, and we need to convert this into an opportunity. And apart of all the segments of the education sector, higher education is poised to make a significant impact because the learners are more mature, they can handle technology, they are also eager to acquire skills because their life and career is going to start after the higher education. So more than school education or skill education, higher education, if played well, can really go to the next level from here on. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, what you are saying is that crisis teaches us many things. What we would have done maybe 5 years later, we are doing now. So COVID-19 has accelerated many things. And you see, as we University Grants Commission had around 20% of credits online, and it's not today, a few years back. but we were not, many of the institutions, most of the institutions were not doing it. There are some which were doing it, but now, because of this crisis, University Grants Commission is thinking of increasing this component. Maybe it may go to 40%. As Preeti ji mentioned that, well, it has to be blended approach. That means some online and some in person. As a teacher, I would not prefer to use the word offline, because what was mainline 3 months back cannot be offline all of a sudden. Therefore, I prefer to say in person. In person will stay. Campus experience is important because that teach the students what to be done, what not to be done. They learn many things from face-to-face interaction with the teachers and the peer group. They would miss the experience of cafeteria. They would miss the experience of other corners of the campus where they socialize. So it has to come back, and it will come back. Now a quick round of way forward. I would request in the same order, just within 5 minutes, you can share your views about way forward. What now? Say post-COVID, specifically, as Siddharth ji rightly mentioned, we are still in COVID-19. It is still COVID-19 era. Now, what now? See, COVID-19 will one day go. As we have seen historically, epidemics have come, epidemics have gone. We have learned many things, but then at the same time, today, this COVID-19, which is the first experience for all of us, because all of us are less than 100 years old. Therefore, what will happen after COVID? Say COVID, once vaccination comes, COVID will not vanish. COVID will stay, but then it will be medically manageable. As we can see, measles is existing even today. Measles has not gone. HIV is existing even today. It has not gone. But these disorders and diseases are medically manageable. Same thing will happen with COVID. Once vaccination is there, it will be medically manageable, but it will remain. Virus will remain there. So we have to manage it medically. That's right. But then after COVID-19, what to do in higher education specifically? So in the same order, first I would request Dr. Swaroopji to share his view.
Oh yes, thank you, Dr. Dhar. You very nicely put it. See, as you rightly mentioned, Pratyaksham Kim Pramanam. Right now, we are all facing each other, so it is all face to face. Even if we are virtual, we face. So there is that personal content which is always there. So this is a different world which is changing. Once upon a time, as you mentioned, 100 years back, when we had that crisis, you remember that there was not a globalized world. Now we are having a globalized world where everything is instantaneous. So the times are different. I mentioned in the beginning VUCA. Now in these VUCA times, and as Siddharth ji mentioned, Preeti ji also said the same thing, we have to take this challenge, make it into an opportunity. To my mind, we should look forward, move forward, and make things different. We do not have to look back at the past. Let us look back to the future. Next 2 years or 3 years, even if we have a vaccine, that will be some time, and we should change ourselves, change the way we do business, change the way we teach, and not only teach, but also to assess. So I feel that we are on the cusp. There is change in the reckoning, and that change is here for us to embrace, for us to go ahead with the future. And in the beginning itself, I mentioned that digital twins, BYOD, the whole lot of artificial intelligence techniques, new technology, we should embrace it and we should move forward. Indians are really good, really sharp, and we can show the way to the whole world, to other universities, other institutions. And it is happening actually now. And to my mind, it is the private universities which are leading the way, not the government universities. So let us move forward. I can see that smile on everybody's face. Everybody agrees with me, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can share your views.
Yes, sir. In short, I would say, sir, we should have the change in the mindset of our the policy makers, our faculty members, our institutional managements, the parents as well as the students. That is the bottom line. Once we actually accept it, change the mindset, then definitely we are going to inspire the innovations. And of course, we must also encourage now our students to go in for some startups. We must have some more of incubation centers at our higher education institutions to nurture their innovative ideas. And many things I have mentioned in my earlier time of this speech also, that is what we need to have a complete collaborations. And the gap, another thing what I would like to mention here, sir, there also has to be a gap, the filling of gap between our higher secondary schools and the college syllabuses also, because as the students come from the after the school education, then they must have that the mindset of innovations. Just only memorizing the content won't help now. So that has to be done even at the school level also, so that when we get the students at higher education level, they are being developed with a different mindsets. So it has to be in the downline also, and then at higher education also, and then there has to be filling of gap between the higher education academics and the industry level also. So it has to be really a complete transformation, and I believe that we are going to enter into a very advanced and tech-driven world that will be really good, what we are aiming for. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. What you say is that every stakeholder has
Yes.
to adapt to the new situation. See,
Yes. Yes.
policymaker is not a different kind of person. Policymakers are like us only. All of them are less than 100 years old. For them also it's a new experience. They also do not know what is happening. But then, to the best of their wisdom, they are trying to frame the policies. Now, the latest, as you see, the latest UGC guideline is that we should go ahead with the examination of the terminal semesters. No way out. It is mandatory. So we should quickly act instead of waiting. Do it online. Okay, now Siddharthji, you can quickly share your views about way forward.
Yes, sir. So I have very specific, 3 or 4 action items which we can look at. One is democratize and universalize distance and online teaching and learning from the regulation point of view. There is no point in again creating a caste system by letting only 10% of the institutions, engage in online or digital access, where technology is for everybody to, adopt. Technology is for everybody to assimilate, and then let the market decide. Let the market decide, who stands and who doesn't stand. So that is one. Second is increase the blended approach from a policy level. So maybe from 20%, can we go up to 40% across the board for teaching, learning of various subjects? That is number 2. Number 3 is access of right kind of device and right kind of data or bandwidth in the tier 3 and rural areas, where the telecom industry has a big role to play. And can we have subsidized or zero cost data, available for students, like we subsidize the, bandwidth and fiber optics for academic institutions? And can we have a right to digital device as one of the maybe universal rights going ahead, where a proper learning device should be in the hands of all the learners? So these are the 3, quick action items. If we can, focus on these as a country, we can significantly move ahead.
Yeah, that means what you are saying is that government has a very important role to play. Say in far-off areas, rural areas, government needs to invest in strengthening the IT infrastructure so that we can have access to each and every student of the nation. In fact, because of the online resources, we can have access beyond the boundary of the nation, because it is now global, all global. That is the advantage of this global education. Now, Gurvinder ji, if there are any questions, you can read them out.
Yes, sir. We have two questions. One is, what about rural students? They are neither having internet access nor skill to use desktop or laptop.
Yeah, Swarup ji, please.
I can answer this. Am I audible? Yeah, actually, very quickly, this is an initiative which the federal government has to take, because this is a call which many other governments, I was in Australia, I was a professor at Monash, and I realized, and we took it up with the federal government in Australia, and they laid the national broadband network. Same thing could be done in India. Here, even the villages, and if you recall a couple of years back, in the central government, in the federal government, they had this National Knowledge Network, NKN. And that I do not know why that scheme has been stopped. It should go, and we should have a broadband network which goes to every block headquarters and every village, ultimately. That is the only way we can, communicate through a broadband network where video link is there for our students. And that is how India will prosper. There will be Make in India, which will be possible very much. And Atmanirbhar Bharat, which will achieve in any case.
An initiative of Sir Swayam Prabha also has been taken from the government, which can be extended. That is having the 32 channels dedicated for the high quality contents. That has already been done. That is the DTH channels, what we have already started. I think these type of initiatives from the government will help our students at the rural sectors.
Also, there is a company, Sir, Bharat Broadband Limited, which is now working, as Swarup sir was mentioning, to make high-speed fiber connectivity available at all the 2.5 lakh panchayats. So they are supposed to finish this job by 2022. If that is done, then we will have an access, at least the highway will be there. On that, a lot of content can be sent across, and the panchayat will become the learning center of future.
Okay, thank you. Gurvinder ji, next question.
So the last question from Dr. Jivitesh Rath ji. Any special stimulus in blended approach for socially backward students?
You mean the stimulus from the government or from?
Yes, sir, from government, I suppose. Yes.
Sorry, government.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, I'm absolutely not aware of any social stimulus which is there. Probably there are a lot of approaches from Panchayati Raj institutions. A couple of weeks back, I was delivering a talk at Panchayati Raj level, and I realized that a lot of work has been done by many of the state governments, because ours is a federal polity. So not everything is done at the central government level. At Panchayati Raj level is being done by the state governments. So I'm sure that a lot of social stimulus is being provided. Yeah.
Preeti ji, would you like to say anything?
Sir, that is what the government is still, it is very difficult for the government also to actually handle and tackle this situation with such a digital divide. But yes, through these open sources, and there are some stimulus that they are trying to get it done at the block level and the panchayati level. But yes, it will need, I think it will require some time to get into the solutions at that level.
Siddharth ji?
Yeah, so the short answer is that currently there is no stimulus in times of, at least in the context of COVID, for the backward student community. But apart, there has been a lot of stimulus in terms of subsidization of their training cost if they enroll into skilling programs, or now even apprenticeship programs in industry as apprentice. But all that has stalled and taken a beating because the industries were locked down and the training activities were also suspended for a long time. So right now for the students, there is nothing in the stimulus package directly, but because of MSME push, we see that a lot of job opportunities might come back again in the coming months.
Thank you very much. Any other question, Gurvinder ji?
No, sir. That's all.
Thank you very much. Well, the crux is that, well, in our country, the concerns are basically quality of education, and second is the reach. And higher education, in fact, I would say education system is very important for any nation. So education cannot be taken for granted. We have to care about it. And all of us have to work together. Government should not be treated separately. Government is also a partner in all that we are doing, because policymakers have a role to play. Therefore, we need to work together instead of criticizing each other. We need to work together and take the country forward. I would like to congratulate ISTD for starting this webinar series. In fact, Bhopal has started this. This is the first one on higher education, and I would request the office bearers of Bhopal chapter to continue this series. At the same time, also being the past president of ISTD, I would appeal all other chapters also to take it up and take the seat as an opportunity and have access to people not within the country, even abroad. We can invite experts from other countries also and learn from each other. That's what is required. And thank you very much, all the speakers.
Yeah.
And I would now hand over the mic to our Dwivedi ji.
We would all like to ditto your compliments to ISTD. This is a wonderful
Yes.
initiative.
Thank you, sir.
Great.
On behalf of ISTD National Office and the capacity of a national president, we are enlightened that your eloquent speeches and our Upinder Dhar sir, all the members has enlightened how to go forward. You are the educationist. Your direction will be our focus. Thank you. In future also we'll work together, and all the universities, ISTD and the universities, any joint venture, ISTD is welcome, sir. And anytime you talk to our Bhopal chapter, or talk to our national office, our director, or anytime you talk to me also, I am available for on behalf of IST national office and national president. We'll work together. Thank you very much. And the very good speech, very good session. Our members are enlightened, because I have already received some of the SMS. They sir, why not you do this type of program across the other state or across the country? I told yes, we will do it. Dorsab has already suggested or advised that we should do it, sir. I am assuring you that as a national president that we will do it, sir. Over to Dwivedi. Manwani, thank you. You are there. Dwivedi, over to Dwivedi for the vote of thanks or someone.
Thank you, sir. Already you have done the given the vote of thanks from national level. So now the Bhopal is included in that. It is set in. I am again thankful to the all speakers, all panelists. Also thankful to the all participants who have participated throughout the country. A special thanks to Dr. Upender Dhar, who has moderated very nicely and concluded all the speakers what they have told. And thanks to Dr. Anup Saroop ji, Preeti Saluja ji, and Siddharth Chaturvedi ji. And also thanks to Mr. President Dr. Mittal, Joshi ji, Salil ji, and a special thanks to Gurvinder Singh ji, who's as our
Gurvinder ji, a special thanks because he has done the thing. Thank you, Gurvinder ji.
Thanks to Latin. But one more thing that, as Dr. Saroop has told, we have to do our work in timely. So somewhere, but he has said, sir, समय न लगाओ तय करने में कि आपको क्या करना है, अन्यथा समय तय कर देगा कि आपका क्या करना है.
बहुत अच्छा.
So and as Upender Dhar ji and Preeti ji and Siddharth told, कि we should go, making on effort, we should go on doing and doing. तो किसी ने कहा कि मंजिल मिले या न मिले ये तो मुकद्दर की बात है, मंजिल मिले या न मिले ये तो मुकद्दर की बात है, पर हम कोशिश भी ना करें ये तो गलत बात है. So we should go on doing, we are going doing, we will success. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dorsab. Thank you.